The last year at Michigan State was not a very easy one, because that was the time I was coming to terms with the fact that the PhD that I was doing was not necessarily the right thing for me. And I remember this one day I had gone out to shoot some photographs, and I reached this spot. It was a wooden fence overlooking this massive barren land. And I clicked it. It was a deep photograph for me. I shot it in black and white, and I still love that photograph. It's one of my best. And 2 years back, when I went back to Michigan State for the first time in 15 years, I wondered if that spot was still there. So I reached that spot, and it's exactly the way that I'd left it. The wooden fence was still there. The land was just as barren. And my first reaction when I reached that spot was, I wish I could go back 15 years to this same spot and tell the Ankur of that day that everything is going to be okay. When I look back at my life, when you look at history in general, you have mostly two takeaways. And the first takeaway for me from the story could have been, whenever I'm in this moment of distress, whenever I am not so sure about my present or not so sure about what the future lies, what the future has in store for me, then all I have to do is just remind myself that everything is going to be okay, because it has been in the past. Or the second takeaway when I look back at my life is to just see and realize how far I've come along, how much distance have I actually traveled, that I'm not nearly the same person that I was 15 years back. You see, when we think of history, we're always told that history is a great way to figure out what mistakes you've made in the past and not to make them again. It's a great way to predict what's going to happen. It's a great way for recognizing patterns, because history repeats itself. But I'm beginning to realize that history is becoming less and less of a good determinant of the future, because the world is changing rapidly at a pace that no one has ever comprehended. Think about it. Less than 100 years back, the biggest reason why most people died was either because of war, because of famine, or because of diseases. And today, there are more people who are dying because of eating disorders than because they don't have enough food to eat. There are more people who are killing themselves than are being killed by others. And when you see that history is, yes, a great way for you to know what had happened, but maybe not the best way for you to know what will happen. Instead, history is a great way for you to tell how far you've come along, how far you've come along. And if you would pick that same concept and apply it to your life, when you look back into your own life and think of it like history of sorts, it's becoming harder and harder and less effective for you to see what you did in the past and not to make the same mistakes again, or to think what's going to happen to you. But it's a great way, and will always remain a great way, for you to figure how far you've come along. And if you're not embarrassed by who you were last year, you possibly haven't moved as much. Until next week, see you all. This is Warikoo Wednesday, Season 2, Episode 10.